project Spotlight on Writing Partners, which is a pen pal program, where SJSU students share letters with middle school children and work to instill a college-going culture at elementary school level. Elizabeth, all yours.
Thank you, Shika. Good morning, everybody. I am so happy to be here with friends, both old and new. I hope you all had a fantastic summer. I want to prep you for the presentation because there's going to be a couple of things required of you. The first one, get your typing fingers ready. We're going to be answering 2 questions. And if you happen to have a piece of paper and a pen or something that will show up on camera, we'll need one of those 2 for the end part of the presentation. Also, welcome to my office. I always wanted really big open windows looking to the sky. And if you need the number of the decal guy for the logo, I can hook you up. It's called Searching Google. So I'm going to start today by asking you a question if you have your typing fingers ready in the chat. My question is as follows. Why can't the Mellons get married? I'll count down from lucky number 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 while we get some answers. Any answers so far? Okay. It looks like we have at least one grammarian / expert in lexical semantics. There we go. I'm liking the answers there. Yes, you are correct. The answer is that Mellons cannot get married because they can't elope, but there's no need to be sad for them because lucky for them, they can still write letters to each other. Okay, next slide. Speaking of letters, I'd like to take you on a quick journey that spans centuries and continents, but don't worry, it's going to take just a little bit, maybe a minute or so. So if you look on the right, you'll see an 1844 letter from Charles Darwin of Britain. He wrote it to a botanist friend of his, and in the letter, he introduced the idea of evolution and natural selection. And years later, it was his book that came out, right, on the origin of species. The top image shows an 1860 letter from a New York girl who was the age of our writing partners participants. And the letter was to a future President Lincoln that strongly suggested, that he grow a beard as it would make him more electable. And did we end up with a President Lincoln? Yes, we did. In 1940, on the left, you'll see a letter from Winston Churchill, also of Britain, who rejected the pressure to make a deal with Nazis to end the Second World War. And then at the very bottom, you see a letter from 1963 by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who, while he was jailed in Alabama, USA, outlined the 4 basic steps of his nonviolent campaign in a letter from Birmingham. I share this to make the point that letters are not unimportant. They have been catalysts of important moments in history. So what is this CommUniverCity Writing Partners project started by Professor Kathy Gabor over a decade ago all about? Well, it's a core project and it enjoys success semester after semester. Like College Day, it sets up a framework that inspires you to pursue college, but more than College Day, it offers a deep and meaningful engagement for mentors and youth alike. It's designed to improve thought narration, grammar, thought organization, narration, legibility, and grammar, among other things. The 3 core components of the Writing Partners program are the pairing at the beginning of the semester, the exchanges of the handwritten letters throughout, and then the face-to-face meeting you see on the bottom right in the picture. In our 15 years, CommUniverCity's 15-year existence, there have been 20 cycles of writing partners, and that puts us at about 800 pairs that have bonded at the end of each semester, or throughout the semesters. And then, now that we learned a little bit about writing partners, our time machine has brought us back to our most recent installments of this project. On the left, you'll see an Ann Darling Elementary student with Polaroids taken at the culminating event in December, just before the first cases of COVID-19 would hit Santa Clara County. On the right, you'll see the very handsome Cash and his person who was a writing partner when we were all working so very hard to flatten that curve. And just really quickly, I want to give kudos to everyone here because I'm sure you all worked really hard to stay home and work from home and help flatten that curve. And so we didn't end up in dire straits like other places have. So feel free to give yourself a high five in the chat to give others a high five in the chat, and just know that we're all in this together, and that we're happy to be here with each other. So what does an adult trudging through college have to say to someone who could be their younger sibling, or in some case maybe their child, because we're talking about that non-traditional student, right? There's plenty that they can say if they have the right prompts and the right professor. Every letter included any combination of the top 3 icons that you see in this slide. The common denominator that you see in my very scientific chart is the future. So no matter the topic, the San Jose State mentors always brought it back to the future. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One, they'd say something like, it's so great that we both have pets and we love pets, but does that mean that you want to be a vet when you grow up? Because that requires some college, you know. Or for example, when we're talking about games, yes, games are super cool. And I heard you can make a lot of money in the industry if you have a degree. There was also a direct approach of positioning college not as the dream, but as the vehicle to achieve their dream and to be successful in life. The fall 2020 cycle was a standard event with the usual nervous excitement of meeting someone in person for the first time. It also included, for the second time, the Game Development Club hosting an activity in King Library where teams work together to design the rules of their very own board game. And it would be lucky to see anything like that. People crowded into a room anytime soon, but maybe one day. In spring 2020, it was known from the start that this sociology class, the spring 2020 course, would be online. And so we did not have expectations that we would be meeting in person. So while COVID-19 didn't completely destroy the project, it did derail the final assignment, which would have included a recording of a physical tour of the favorite places on campus to share with the Sunrise Middle School students. To pivot and adapt, the community engaged learners were given 2 additional options. They included a Padlet, which you see screenshots of here. These specific ones were the timeline assignment. So the timeline was supposed to be of their journey through college. So we're talking about wanting to go to one college, realizing it's not for them, or I had a child and I wanted to be a good example and such. The second option to adapt and pivot was to create a virtual tour by adding links to their Padlet in addition to a video where they recorded themselves, basically introducing themselves in person, but on video. The videos were encouraging, some were short, some were long, but one of them that really kind of stuck out to me out of all 35 were was from the community engaged learner who described a major loss in his life at a really young age, young enough to where he ended up following a detour through the juvenile system, but ultimately found his way back to a positive path with the help of high school mentors. Looking to the future, we're now equipped to facilitate a virtual introduction using tools like Padlet if necessary. So it's encouraging and all, but does it work? Well, let's ask the data. You'll see here on your screen a table, and I'll walk you through it. So we use 5 measurements to say that overall, yeah, it works. But we can see in some places that there was a decline in satisfaction. The main factor to consider are the participating schools. And Darlene, students in the after-school choral program received extra help by several teachers or team members of the choral program. Sunrise Middle School students, half of those participating in the program were chosen because they were like really, really struggling with their writing. So COVID wasn't exactly a helping factor in that area. So they probably a reason they didn't enjoy it. For this reason, we could say that this would be why it was 7% less enjoyable for Sunrise Middle School students. This, along with the lower survey response rate, so 15 down from 24 from the Ann Darling students, and the COVID-19 induced stress of homeschooling are also likely factors in the significantly lower confidence levels, which is the 3rd row, it looks like. It would also explain the 50% drop in the letter response rate. So once COVID was hit and everybody was at home, no letters from half of the kids at Sunrise Middle School. And not because we couldn't collect the handwritten letters, they just did not physically type a letter to be shared with the San Jose State students. So across the board, writing partners succeeded in improving the writing skills of the students. And in the last row there, you'll see in their own words, that they shared with us that they're learning, that they're improving, and that they are becoming more confident in the writing. And they even that their penmanship looks better. And don't we all want that for our kids, or maybe even for ourselves, to have better penmanship? Like me specifically. Okay, so it works, but who else does it help? If you look at the responses from the community engaged learner, it helps them narrow down what they want for their future. What they learned in class prepare them for this project, for writing to the kids, and for being sensitive to the different backgrounds that they come from. So this project, because it involved real cases, sociologists, right, so to speak, not only improved their academic learning, but it positively affected their understanding of the class topics. The project Writing Partners has motivated community engaged learners to not only narrow the scope of their career interests, but to pursue a master's degree. So that's like a big jump, right? To say, hey, I want to go even further with school. So taught them the language of accessible language communication. So every semester there were 2 to 3 letters written in Spanish, or partners, teams. It has helped the sociology students to learn that they should consider socioeconomic aspects of different families and their interactions. And to me, that's important, because depending on the student who wrote that, who's to say that that is something they would have learned outside of service learning or outside of an internship. So it's helped the elementary students, it has helped the sociology students, and if we spread it to other school districts as requested in the survey responses that you see there in the last row, it can help many more. But who let us borrow their students' time, their energy, for us to create this impact? It was these 3 superhero teachers, along with the team of saints at the choral program, because of their willingness to open their classrooms and to incorporate this enrichment opportunity. The kids had a meaningful and special experience. And something I would not have expected was that the service learner spirits were lifted because of the letters they received after the shelter-in-place order. So yes, it was a school assignment, and yes, they learned, but it also turned out to be somewhat of a lifeline to a bright spot in a whirlwind or because we're in 2020, a fire NATO, right? And now we're gonna go on to our next slide, our final slide, before we move into questions. I have one more question for you. And if you pulled out your piece of paper and your fancy pen that can be seen on the camera, I want first, we'll write the answer to this question. I have one more question. Why did the school kids eat their homework? So if you have a piece of paper and you want to show off your penmanship to the camera, go ahead and do that. And we'll give you all a few seconds. If you don't have a paper handy, you can go ahead and write it in the chat. And if you know the answer, oh, that's a good one, Gina, but not exactly the answer just yet. So if you have, if you're able to put yourself into gallery view, or maybe if we can escape from the presentation, Matt, maybe we can see everyone in gallery view. I'm not sure. Maybe.
Is that better?
Yeah, are you able to put it into gallery view or no?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
I can see it in gallery view.
Yeah.
Okay, so if everyone can see in gallery view, and you can hold up your papers if you have the answer and you're showing off your penmanship. I'm very proud of you. Congratulations. So I have a couple of answers in the chat about why the teacher, what was the question? Going back to the presentation. About
why did the students
eat their homework?
Yeah.
Because the teacher said it was a piece of cake.
I like that.
So after writing all those letters, I think that the kids with their newfound confidence may or may not want to go on to write cheesy, corny jokes like this with the semantics and such. But it's been a good experience. Like I said, it's a success semester after semester. So with that, I'll wrap it up and ask if anybody has any questions. either in the chat or anywhere else.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Your energy is always well appreciated. We love it.
Thank you,
For
Sheila.
every project.
Oh my
Yes. Just for the interest of time too, if you could hold off your questions or email them or connect with Elizabeth later, I just wanted to introduce Mary Zen, who will present us a list of the upcoming CommUniverCity activities.
Hi, so briefly,